Hello, everybody. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Um, this meeting is being recorded, just to let everyone know, just so we can show other people after it's done. But welcome. My name is Casey Greer, and I'm so excited to introduce once again Dr. Tom Porter. This is the third call in a series we've been doing called Seeing Beyond. And I'm really excited to hear what Dr. Porter has to say about low vision tech, low tech to high tech. Going to go over a lot of different things tonight, so it's going to be really exciting. And I will be watching the chat. If you want to put any questions in the chat, I'll have my eye on that, and we will take questions at the end. Um, okay, I'm just letting more people in.
Great.
So we'll give it like a minute maybe. Um, sorry, what was that, Dr. Porter?
I said it's great. The more
Oh
the merrier,
yeah,
right?
we're so glad to have you. Um, yeah, so yeah, Dr. Porter, if you'd like to go ahead and get started, I'll continue to let people in as they come, but
Sure. That
you
would
can
be
go
great.
ahead.
So, sometime back, Casey and Karen and I had a discussion about various topics that we thought you might be interested in, and one of them was pertaining to technology. And then I was reminded that the audience can be so different than many that I speak to. Some people know a lot about availability of low vision aids and things like that, and some really don't know a lot. So my title was Low Vision Options, Low Tech to High Tech. Um, uh, Whoa, let's try that again. Technology is moving so quickly that I could literally spend all my waking hours trying to keep up with that technology. Most of it is the new things are web-based, and we're not going to attempt to tackle that tonight. I think what might be interesting sometime at one of our big national meetings is to put a group of 15 to 25-year-olds and a panel discussion, because they are the ones that really know what apps are available on the internet. I'm going to go over some very basic low vision categories tonight. And any image that you might see that I use is not intended to be an endorsement for any device or any particular manufacturer, but more just as an example. Be aware that most manufacturers will um, produce a device that's very similar to whatever you might see here. So if you ever have heard me lecture before, I always try and remind everyone that low vision care really is manipulating three different ingredients. The first one is improving there we go, is improving contrast. Contrast is the eye's ability to visually separate an object from the background. Um, in albinism, we've really got to, at the same time, control glare. Glare and contrast are not the same thing by any means. Any of you folks with albinism know how glare hurts, but contrast is really the thing that really determines how well you can function in the world. We can't make things sharp, but we can sure make them big. And for those folks that are parents or grandparents of someone with albinism, um, I always use the analogy of a photo camera. If we've got a good camera with a bad roll of film, it's going to take a blurry picture. But if we make the image big enough, the eye can interpret it. And then the final ingredient that we use is that the user needs to learn to use their vision as productively as they can with with the low vision aid. Now, people with albinism, this,
Um,
huh?
well,
I don't know whether I heard something in the background. Um,
Sorry, I think just not everyone was muted. So yeah, if you wouldn't mind muting yourself, and I'll mute people as well. Sorry about that.
okay. By the way, I'm trying my darndest to use the PWA. That was something I'd never heard of before until I got involved with Casey. But since this is a congenital condition, PWAs learn how to use their vision effectively with no coaching and no training. On my patients that I see that have had normal vision all their lives and then lose it for one reason or another, that's a big, big, big problem. But always keep in mind that anything that you're trying to accomplish will involve to some degree manipulating those ingredients. And let's see if we can get this to for, oh man, this is going fast. Okay. Man, we've jumped a bunch of slides. Okay. Okay. Here we go. I the we talk about something called figure ground relationship, which is not on this slide, but I think it's worth it. It should be mentioned. Um, Figure ground is goes back to that contrast idea. The more different the object you're trying to see and what lies behind it, the easier it is to see. Unfortunately, that goes with eye charts. There are black letters on white background, and while that's the perfect situation, that's not the real world. But in trying to function at a higher level, the more different that you can make an object in the background, the easier it is to work with. An example would be sorting medications. If you have a white pill and you're trying to sort it out, do it on a black napkin or a black background, not a white one. In writing with children, I really recommend to teachers that they try and use the whitest paper and the blackest ink they can. Um, tents are very, very helpful in albinism. Uh, Glare hurts, and the idea that the darker the tint I can get, the happier I'm going to be. But the reality is, uh, a dark tint often further reduces contrast sensitivity. So it's probably um, uh, better to try and come up with a tint that enhances contrast and reduces glare. And what would that look like? Very often a dark amber or an orange is a color that will work if it's produced in a dark enough fashion. Then the next thing that we think about is magnification. If we can't make it sharp, we make it bigger. And the concept of magnification has been around for 1200 years. These are some bullet points that I found on the internet. Egyptians used crystals to better view small objects. Around 700 BC, they used these polished glasses, magnifiers for details. The first practical magnifying glass, it's recognized today, is credited to Roger Bacon. Bacon's work contributed to the development of lenses, and its first mentioned use was in 1268. Wow, that's before I was born. And it's been adapted as primitive spectacles. Here we go. So they've been around forever. Hand magnifiers are familiar to almost everyone. I'll bet that growing up, Grandma had one in a desk drawer. Many of you, it's the first low vision aid that you've ever used. But keep in mind, a hand magnifier is only designed for very, very, very short reading tasks. As an example, reading the return address on an envelope, reading the expiration date on a canned good. Um, because they are so common. Um, it's the first thing that people will try. And when I have a new low vision patient in the office, I ask them to bring every low vision aid that they have, whether it's helpful or not. And it's not uncommon to have a whole grocery sack full of my hand magnifiers. Um, Illuminated versus non-illuminated. Because lighting enhances contrast, an illuminated magnifier is probably preferable over a non-illuminated magnifier. They do have optical limitations. Um, people will ask me all the time, I want the strongest hand magnifier I can get. Well, the stronger the magnifier, the smaller the lens is made. And the reason is that the stronger lens, the thicker it gets. So hand magnifiers um, have a really a limited number of powers. And depending on the visual acuity, it may be something that it's better to abandon that idea when rather than getting in the higher powers. When you get above about 6 times magnification with a hand magnifier, you can no longer use it in the standard fashion that you're used to. You actually have to hold the magnifier up in the spectacle plane. The stronger the magnifier, the smaller the field of view. So even though they're very, very common and people feel very comfortable with them, um, they've got some limitations. They're relatively inexpensive. Um, Spectacle magnifiers, oops, why is this jumping on me? We'll try and get back there. Um, this kind of goes along with hand magnifiers. I want a pair of glasses, a stronger pair of reading glasses. And the stronger the reader, the closer to the face one has to hold things. Um, and if you think about how many of you or many of your children magnify things, they literally hold it right on the end of their nose. It's called relative distance magnification. And that's really what a strong reading lens allows one to do. And that is bring it in close enough that the image looks big enough that they can work with it. And people often say, gosh, I tried to get over-the-counter magnifiers and the stronger or magnifying glasses and the stronger that I can get is about +3. I went on the internet and I found +4. Well, they can be made up to a +40. Now the focal distance of a +40 is about 1 inch. So this gentleman that I have showing there would be holding this literally on the end of his nose. And then another issue is that after you get to a certain power, the two eyes won't work as a team any longer, that the patient can only view with one eye. So on strong spectacle magnifiers, when we get above about +10, we have to cover one eye. We have to occlude one eye. And if you look at this photo of this gentleman, if you look at his, it would be his left eye, there's a black occluder on there, forcing him or allowing him to use just the one eye. Okay, let's go on from there. The next type, I'm not sure why this is jumping. Oh, okay, there we go. The next type of magnifier that is commonly used for all low vision patients is called a stand magnifier. And the idea is the magnifier stands on the print. It's designed for more extensive reading tasks. Some of my patients will use this to do book work, read magazines and such as that. It is great if the patient has any sort of tremor. Again, the problem is the stronger the magnifier, the closer you have to get to the lens. Remember, the stand magnifiers are standing on the page, so that it can produce problems with neck and postural problems. It's easy to maintain the proper magnification because it's already fixed in there. Illuminated versus non-illuminated. In the lower left-hand corner, those are all examples of non-illuminated stand magnifiers, and the other three have illumination. Powers range from about 2.2, which is the dome, the paperweight kind of magnifier in the upper right, up to about 15 times, which the one on the lower right is about 15 times. There's a technique that your low vision doctor can design for you where you're actually doubling the magnification by using a little bit higher power reading glass and one of the stand magnifiers. It's a pretty neat trick because that allows you to double the magnification but not reduce the working distance, as I was describing a little bit earlier on stand magnifiers alone and hand magnifiers. Okay, so the only optical device that allows longer working distances and magnification is some sort of telescopic device. Hand magnifiers won't do it, stand magnifiers won't do it. But in all objects, it's a trade-off. Um, it's give and take. As the magnification in a telescopic device increases, the field of view closes down. And when the field of view gets small enough, it's very, very difficult to localize on what you're trying to see. I remember as a kid, I was taken to a professional football game, and my dad had a pair of binoculars, and I was trying to follow the play on the field with these binoculars, and the field of view was so small that I couldn't follow along. Normal human eye has almost 170 degrees, almost to your ears, field of view. But telescopes typically have 10 to 12. So this is quite a limitation. The stronger the telescope, the smaller the field of view, as I said, but they do something else, and that is they magnify any movement. So if a person has, let's say, just a little hand tremor and they're holding a telescopic device, everything is going to move in the opposite direction about the same number of times as the magnifier. Let's say that the magnifier or the telescope's is 6x, and any movement is going to be magnified by 6 times. So again, a telescope's a wonderful device, but it has limitations. These are examples of handheld magnifiers, and the the more magnification you need, the physically bigger the magnifier will be. And there's a chart right in the middle, and it compares a four times telescope up to an 8 times. And in the bottom, the two middle ones are about 10 times. So they get physically very, very large. Magnifiers can be very small, like the young boy in the upper right, or a little bit larger in the left. Some are focusable, some are fixed focus. But again, telescopes are wonderful aids. It's the only low vision aid that actually technically allows one to use it for far, far away infinity, intermediate distances. And I've set some of these up for reading sheet music and things like that. And they can even be used for reading in close work. Many of you have probably seen at the dentist that he wears a pair of loupes. Well, those are essentially telescopes. So they are the one device that'll do all three things. These are some examples of head-borne um, telescopes. In the extreme left-hand side, that's what I'd call an off-the-shelf model. There's nothing custom made about it. It is focusable. There are little wheels at the side that you can adjust to focus for any refractive error you've got. If your glasses are very, very strong, there's a version of that that just clips on your glasses. And like sunglasses, you flip it up out of the way when you're not using it and flip it down. It's kind of a neat little device. There's the more middle pictures are two different people using spectacle mounted telescopes that are custom made. The gentleman just about in the middle there, his are set up for reading. You can tell that they're in the lower third of the glasses and they're converging. And then we have two photos of different types of telescopes used for bioptic driving. Um, that's but driving and eventually the bioptic telescopes are big topics of interest whenever we have one of the NOAA meetings. So let's see. Oh, we're going backwards. We're getting close. I had warned Casey that this was going to be actually a fairly short webinar tonight, not the whole hour that I normally take. So digital technology, video technology has been around, oh my gosh. Um, it's easily been around 40 years. The original stand video or desktop video magnifiers like the one on the upper left-hand corner uh, uh, paved the way. And the original desktops, when I started in practice, cost between $3,000 and $3,500, and a new car costs about that same amount. So relatively speaking, these illuminated CCTV type magnifiers have come down somewhat. We're seeing these used less frequently all the time in that form. More and more and more users are going with more compact um, uh, iPad size or even pocket size video magnifiers. The almost all of the ones that are about the size of an iPad have all the features that the desktop have and one more. They have an HDMI port that will take the image and put it onto a television screen or a monitor. And the way that that comes in is that the bigger the monitor, the lower the level of magnification that you have to use on the iPad device, but you'll be able to get more images at one time. Studies have shown that if you can't get more than 7 characters at a time, your reading performance is dramatically reduced. Um, let's go back to the left-hand side. This is a lady using an Oricam, and for profoundly visually impaired, this is a great device. It scans the text and then will read it back out loud. There's a lot of different models of Oricams. Some of them just do basic reading, and others can also identify money and do some distance and have a library of faces where they can identify. So it's kind of a neat device. In the middle, and this is not too impressive picture, it's a device that takes your video camera and the attachment to it then takes the video camera and makes it a fully working pocket-sized closed-circuit TV reader. It's something very new. The company that produces it has said that by I think it's January of 26, they'll have a version for the iPad. So any of you with iPads could then have a device that would take the place of this video magnifier down in the center bottom. And it's called Aptaro, if any of you want to do a Google search. And then, oh my gosh, what just happened, Casey? I'm not sure. I don't want to lose where we are.
I think just maybe click back on the page.
Okay. Oh,
There we go.
amazing. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Then the last thing that I'm gonna cover is head-borne video devices. I remember at the last conference there was a vendor that had one or two of these for everybody to try. They're not terribly new either. The first one that I used in my clinic was in 1992. Something called ELVIS, LVES, Low Vision Enhancement System. And the desire for all of us is to come up with the the most innovative low vision aid that allows you to use this, but have something that looks just like a pair of glasses. And we're not there yet. All of these are essentially various types of virtual reality displays. Some of them have an input that's app from an iPhone, from a cell phone. Some of them are just freestanding, but the majority of them you really can't walk in, and that's, as you can see, most of these cover the entire face. And if you don't have the ability to look down and see your feet or stairs or whatever, mobility is really an issue. And then they the controls have to be manipulated by the user. So we're getting there, but we still have a long, long, long ways to go. So I know that I was pretty short tonight. I really wanted to give you all just sort of an overview of these low vision aids, from the most basic hand magnifier and tents and things like that, all the way up to something a little bit more sophisticated like this and the other video magnifiers. Um, I I am sincere. I think that it would be great at one of the national NOAA meetings to have um, sort of an open forum on what uh, what apps folks have found most helpful, and maybe have a discussion on that. So Casey, I am going to kind of wind it up, and then if there are any questions, happy to
Yeah,
answer them,
awesome.
or any other questions.
Thank you so much. And yeah, if anybody has any questions, please put them in the chat, or you can just speak. That's also fine. You can unmute yourself and just ask. So we'll give it a minute if anybody wants to come forward and ask any questions.
Hi, I have a question. I have a 4-month-old, so I'm kind of on the earlier end of this, but when would you start using some of these technologies for kids?
That's a great question. I was recently speaking at a meeting of special ed teachers, and I I love to introduce children to low vision aids about age 5. Um, here's what's going to happen with your youngster. Uh, they're going to magnify images by literally holding them on the end of their nose. Now, it's not going to damage the eye, so don't tell the lie that I've told my kids that they're going to ruin their eyes. But the closer an object gets to the eye, the more the eye has to focus. The more it has to focus, the more tiring that becomes. So what happens is that as they start to progress in school, um, the potential of them developing some problems goes up. Low vision aids, really the whole goal is to allow the user to function, but not at that end of the nose, but further out. So you've got a few years, but uh, earlier is better than late.
Thank you.
Hmm.
Great. Anybody else?
Nope. Well,
Wes with the hand up.
Oh, was that you, Wes?
Yes.
Okay, and then I do see one more question in the chat too. So we'll take you, Wes, first, and then we'll do one more in the chat.
You know what? I like you did a little thing about digital or head mounted magnification, which is great. And like going around now, I hear about smart glasses and I'm thinking, oh, cool, something I don't have to carry holding my hand all the time. But every time I look at smart glasses, it's like they basic glass itself looks at something and then converts it into like a audio verbal description. And I was looking forward to seeing the day when they can do stuff in the lenses of the smart glasses. Like I want to look at a crowded street with like bunch of, cars, trees, bike racks, and signs and stuff, and I would put a symbol over the bus stop, for instance. And
mhm.
I walk into an intersection and I can see these big hands or the white running man, like just like in front, just in front of the curb or something. And then I can, have like the route number and the name of the bus route just just hovering over the roof of a bus as it approaches a bus stop. I mean, or I could punch an address and there'd be a line on the ground or in the air that I could just follow. And for instance, and so that's what I've kind of been looking forward to and holding out for. And also the thing does not need to look like ski goggles like the Apple Vision, or something, or something people see and then what comes to mind as goggles. They sound like smooth, like more like a pair of fancy sunglasses or like maybe even a visor, like along the side of Dory LaForce, but still a lot thinner, would be a lot nicer. And I also don't like about these head mount video magnifiers, all of them you can't walk with them. I like something that I can walk with.
Well,
So,
so Wes, you're right on. And it's not that far away. I've worked with a prototype. Um, it was late last year that like Siri, you could say, give me, I need to walk to 2525 Country Stone Lane. And in these glasses, it would do a series of arrows, like you follow the arrow, you're going to get to where you want to
There you
go.
go.
They
I like Crazy
now,
Taxi.
but I'm not trying to make excuses for the developers, but they've got a lot of things that they've got to get through. But the smartphones are smart, and I think that it's probably going to be a smartphone um, uh, technology that marries the device, the glasses, and that. But is it coming? Sure, it's coming. It's just um, stay tuned. It'll be there.
And I can say the go-to apps technology I'm using right now is an iPhone
Mhm.
running the Reboca app. I mean, that's usually my go-to. Believe me, if I'm without it, I feel dead in the water because I no longer carry anything else, just my iPhone. And I show up at the store and forget my iPhone. It's like I can't shop. It's like, how do totally blind people do this? And I wish I could find a totally blind person that could help me, do my shopping for me, because like, how do you know what's in the box, how much it weighs, the price of it, or the best by date? It's like, oh, I
Right.
have no idea how a totally blind person does that.
We're going to take the next question,
know.
Wes. Thank you. So the next
All right.
question is, for any of these low vision devices, what kind of store would be the best to buy? I can only think online like Amazon, but is there a physical store like Best Buy is what they're asking.
Okay, that's a great question, and it depends on the community that you're in. There's just a great variation. I have a friend who runs a store called Sightsavers, and she has all the displays and all the various different devices, and you can certainly go in and try them. That's the exception, not the rule. Bigger low vision departments. Most larger cities have something like a Society for the Blind that will have many of these low vision aids that can be demonstrated. Now, buying it online, it's to some degree, it's buyer beware because um, um, there's a great variation in quality. There are some that are manufactured by companies that maybe have 100 years of experience and great reputation versus a little company where two guys that have video technology put something together and sell it. I will tell you, I've always been impressed at the NOAA meetings that the vendors that are there, and many of them have these devices for you to play with and try on, which I think would be very helpful.
Great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Porter. This has been great, and we did record this, so we'll be sending it out to everybody. And stay tuned for if we have any other Seeing Beyond series. We would love to have Dr. Porter back, so we're always ready for that and open for that. So thank you so much for everybody for coming. Thank you, Dr. Porter, for coming.
Thank you very much.
We
Everybody
appreciate
take
it.
care tonight.
Take care. Have a great night, everybody. Bye.